Welcome back to chapter 5. We are in our last video of this series, which is going to be the 5th video. And in this video, we're going to talk about slides, whoops, I should have it written down, 67 through 80. So we're going to go through the last of the slides starting at 67. This video is going to be about tissue injury and regeneration, and then one slide about aging. So tissues are going to get hurt. They're going to break, they're going to be destroyed. And how does your body respond to these tissues being broken and needing to be repaired? So think of a bone, think of skin, think of heart, think of a brain injury. What happens inside your body when these tissues are damaged? The first thing that happens is that we have inflammation. And inflammation's job is to bring in the workers of the body to clean up the dead tissue. Get the dead tissue out of the way. And then regeneration is to have the builders of the body, the fibrocytes, they come in and they will build new tissue in its place. So the first thing we're going to talk about is inflammation. Then we're going to talk about regeneration. So inflammation is a good thing. It is the way that your body responds to when you have body damage. It is going to be the very first response to any kind of injury that you have. Inflammation is going to include swelling, redness, heat, and pain. We're going to talk about why those things occur during inflammation, and it's all a good sign of repair. Now, many of you guys know that we don't want too much inflammation, but inflammation is your body's way of starting to fix a problem. So any kind of injury that you have, you should see inflammation. That's a good thing. If inflammation goes on too long, or if inflammation is too big, then it can start to damage your body worse than the original injury. So that's why we're always trying to limit inflammation. But we do want you to have inflammation because you cannot fix your body if you don't have it. So the inflammatory response is going to be triggered by trauma, which is injury, or by bacterial or viral infection. So those two things are going to be starting off the process of inflammation. The first thing that happens whenever we have bacteria coming in, viruses coming in, or injury is that the cells are going to be destroyed. So as the cells break open, they are going to release what's inside of them, and that increase in concentration of what's inside of them is what's going to stimulate the first steps of inflammation. So when a cell explodes, the first thing that you're going to see, well, not first, but one of the things you're going to see are prostaglandins. Prostaglandins are let me see this. Prostaglandins are proteins that tell your body that you're hurting. So it also starts the pain process. So prostaglandins are released, proteins are released, and potassium ions. Your cells, I want you to think about your cells as little potassium pockets. And potassium is going to be released whenever a cell explodes. That is going to start inflammation. So as the cell explodes and then begins to break down, lysosomes are released. Now, I don't know if you guys remember what a lysosome is. You should have learned it in cell biology, but a lysosome is a large vesicle full of hydrochloric acid. It's the stomach of the cell. And your cell uses the lysosome to break things down and recycle things. So whenever the cell is done with a protein, that protein will end up in a lysosome. Whenever the cell is done with a carbohydrate, it ends up in the lysosome. The lysosome is a stomach full of acid. Now imagine that a cell explodes and releases a lysosome into the space, and then imagine that the lysosome starts to break down and all that hydrochloric acid is released into that space. That's going to destroy and kill other cells in that area. That is called necrosis. So necrosis is any time that cells are dying and being broken down from an outside source. All right, so this is really bad. We want to get that stopped. We want to get that stuff cleaned up and taken out of that place. So because if we don't, then that necrotic tissue will expand. So if that hydrochloric acid goes out and kills other cells, those cells will explode and release their lysosomes. And so it will grow. It will increase in size if we don't do something to stop it. The cell debris and the dying tissues all together are called pus. So if you have pus, we can see pus easiest and is it right on the face. Pus is that white stuff. That white stuff is dead, dying cells and your white blood cells trying to start getting stuff fixed. So pus is yours. It's not, it might contain bacteria, but the majority of pus is actually from your body. When pus is in one specific area and can't get out, it's called an abscess. So an abscess can cause excruciating pain, and that's what it is a small abscess on your face, right? So it can create pain. You know how you get rid of an abscess. It has to pop. That pus has to get taken out. Now, sometimes the pus or the abscess is actually going to be deep inside the body, and you're going to have some surgical help to remove that pus, so you decrease the pain, but it's not going to repair on its own. So these injuries, these dead and dying cells, this necrotic tissue is going to be a signal to mast cells. I don't know if you remember the mast cells. We talk about those in the connective tissue. They're an immune cell, and they respond by releasing histamine, another protein called heparin, and more prostaglandins. So you have more pain, and you have histamine and heparin. The histamine, heparin, and prostaglandins are going to start calling throughout the body. I need white blood cells. We need help. Send white blood cells to help so we can stop this process and get this cleaned up. So the mast cells start that process by calling out to the rest of the body. The body will respond by dilating blood vessels. So a blood vessel is small, and we're going to dilate it. We're going to make it bigger, and that means that we're going to have more blood flowing to the area. It also means that the capillary wall is going to be start to get really leaky. So it's going to be a small tube, it gets to be a bigger tube, and as it gets to be a bigger tube, things are spaced out, so plasma is going to start leaking out. But we're going to be bringing plasma, we're going to be bringing white blood cells, we're going to be bringing lots of oxygen. But by dilating our blood vessels, we start to see the redness happening, and we start to see heat because there's more blood flow to an area that didn't have it before. So it's going to be warm and red whenever you have inflammation really getting going. The plasma is going to leak out. So plasma is the liquid part of your blood, and it's going to be leaking out, and it's going to carry some of the white blood cells with it. The white blood cells are specifically phagocytic. So if you remember phagocytosis, that's when we're taking in solids. And so these phagocytic white blood cells are going to come into the area and start eating up all the dead cells and any bacteria that's in there too. We're going to clean up the area. So the white blood cells are coming with the blood and in the bigger blood vessels, and they're being attracted to the area by the mast cells, and they're going to clean up the area and get rid of all those dead cells. So that's inflammation. Once the white blood cells come, do their job, it can be days to hours to days, to clean up the area and to clean up all the tissue. Then we can start to regenerate. So regeneration is when we're going to start to build tissues to fill in the space where the tissues died or were gone. So that's healing. The process of regeneration involves fibrocytes, another connective cell, and that connective cell is going to make tons and tons of collagen and fill in that space with collagen, which is a scar. So many tissues are going to be replaced with scar tissue. Many cells will start out with a type of scar tissue, a type of collagen, and then the appropriate cells will come back in and fill in that space. So new cells will migrate to the area, or we'll have stem cells in the area that will make more of the cell type that you lost. So if you have damaged a muscle, you're going to have other muscle cells replace it. If you have epithelial, your skin cells, okay, so not all cells can regenerate, Skin and connective tissue, though, most of it regenerates really quickly. So if I cut my hand, I'm going to have inflammation, and then I'm going to have replacement with skin cells and collagen cells. I'll have a scar on my hand. Okay, so epithelial and connective tissues, they regenerate really easily, except, remember, for cartilage and tendons and ligaments. Cartilage, tendons, and ligaments don't have a lot of blood flow, so they don't regenerate really well. So it takes a long time for them to repair. Cardiac cells and neurons don't repair at all. So a cardiac cell will never be replaced with another cardiac cell. There are no stem cells to replace that. So if you have a heart attack, if someone has heart damage, it is not going to get fixed. In fact, it'll be a scar tissue, and the heart might get larger, but it's going to be mostly scar tissue, which is not functional. So here in this picture, we have somebody got a boo-boo on their knee, and those injured cells are going to be releasing chemicals. Those chemicals are going to be recognized by mast cells. Mast cells are activated, and they're going to release histamine, heparin, and prostaglandins. The histamine, heparin, and prostaglandins are going to increase pain, but they're also going to be opening up these blood vessels. So the blood vessels are going to expand, and you're going to get more blood flowing too. So we have increased blood flow. Because the vessel is larger, it's more permeable, which means it's leaky. And we're going to have a lot more pain because we have a lot more fluid where we didn't have it before. So we got swelling. That's where the fluid is coming in. So we have heat and redness because the blood vessels are opening. The permeability is going to mean that we have a lot of plasma leaking out. So we're going to have swelling, and that's going to cause pain. So we have increased temperature, which is actually a good thing. It actually increases metabolism in that area, so the cells will divide and replace it faster. We have increased oxygen and nutrients because we have more blood flow. We have more phagocytosis. That's those white blood cells coming in and eating everything up and getting rid of all that debris. And we're going to get rid of all the toxins and the waste because those phagocytes are going to be eating it up, yum, 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 and getting rid of it. Once all of that is done, our inflammation subsides, which could be hours to days, depending on the injury, and then we can begin regeneration. Okay, the last slide is about aging and tissue structure, and it's always bad news when we talk about aging. Speed and efficiency of tissue repair, so any kind of injury is always going to be harder to fix. That's because metabolism slows down as we get older. Hormones are going to slow down, and we're going to have reduced physical activity. So all of these things are going to make tissue repair worse. Things that we will notice about tissues in elderly people are thinning epithelia. So if you look at grandma's or great-grandma's skin, it's very, very thin now. And epithelia and all connective tissues throughout the body are thinning. You have increased bruising and bone brittleness. So it's easier to break a bone, and you're going to see more bruising in individuals, more joint pain and broken bones, cardiovascular disease, mental deterioration, and cancer rates increase with age. All bad news. But these are things to think of in your head as you're working with elderly patients, that they are going to have damage. They're going to have a sprained ankle. That is going to repair really slowly. And they may not understand that it's going to be slow, but you do, and you can explain why it's going to be repairing slower. And so you don't get their hope. They don't have unexpected hopes for improvement quickly. All right, so this is the end of this chapter. This was a doozy, right? There's a lot of information in this chapter, but this is the foundation of everything that we're going to learn for the rest of the time. Our next videos and our next chapters are all going to be about organ systems. So just as we're talking about the organ systems, we're going to be talking about organs, and they are made up of tissues. So you guys need to understand that. All right, this is it for chapter 5. We are done with the videos and hopefully done with the information. So good luck. Again, study guide, study guide, study guide. If you have any questions, send those to me and I will answer them as quickly as I can. Okay, bye.